All right, here we go, man. So, good morning to you, man. Thank you so much for being prepped and for sending over your applicant profile. I got that in the mail yesterday around 8 p.m. Came in. Appreciate you sharing me about being your greatest strengths or being a good listener and compassionate. What appeals, your income goals are, certainly 110% achievable. 70 your first year would, if you did average, that's what you make your first year in cash flow. And that's even before the residual. If you make 70 grand here, the thing is Mike, you might, if you see 70 of cash flow, really made about 120. It's just that a lot of that back end, you get, when you make sales, your cash flow is 60% of your first year's commission.
Yeah.
You're still going to get the other 40%. You're just going to get it as the client makes their 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th monthly payments. Okay. The first 7 months, that's your 60% up front, right? So you've got the 40% on the back end. And then you starting in month 13, you got the residuals that trail off of it from there. So when you do see 70 cash from this year's work, you actually created more like 120, which is pretty cool. And then you factor in bonuses and everything else that goes with that. So that's really, really cool. I guess before we dive in, do you have any questions for me? Anything that's come up with any of you or any of your friends or that you want to kind of understand better?
Not at this moment. I have a few questions about how the sales actually work, but we can get over that later.
Yeah, for sure we can.
Okay.
So I'm going to share my computer screen with you and pull up a few things. Pardon my, wrong one. Pardon my cluttered desktop. I'm an out of sight, out of mind guy. So sometimes if it's not pulled up, I forget about it, So let's talk about the final interview assignments. We sent you a couple things. And I guess in the body of the email, to start off, there was a couple of 3 different testimonials. We able to open up all those. So 2 of them are by Henry Kidd. The first one is nice and typed up. And I actually helped Henry write this because I wanted it specifically to answer some objections that I get from other business owners. And I used to carry around about 15 or 20 of these from different business owners and all I worked with. Anytime I had a good relationship, they liked me, I would just ask them for a favor to write that up. So I could, when I got in front of other business owners that I didn't know, I could just share them all these great stories of people that just love doing business with us. And so they know they're not the guinea pig. But tell me your main takeaway from this, from the Kidd Plumbing Services testimonial.
I thought it was really cool. Like he wasn't really sure about it, but then he joined and he needed it down the line. And it was really good. A lot of them were like that, where they seemed not very sure if they wanted it or not, but they ended up buying it and they ended up needing it down the road.
Absolutely. How about with now Henry's other testimonial was Henry's got some pretty good chicken scratch. This is one that about a decade after that first one that he wrote, Henry called me up one day and said, "Hey man, it's Henry." By that time we'd become close, had beers a couple times together, resurfaced his business, once every 6 months to a year. And he said, "Hey, I need your help. Amanda's got cancer." Or I think he said Amanda's got leukemia. That's his wife.
Yeah.
And so after, the initial shock, the human aspect of that, it was like, okay, let's help him. Let's show him how this policy really works and what it's really for. So during the course of that, we paid him $40,606.75. But tell me, were you able to read his handwriting?
Yeah, I was able to read it. It was kind of hard to make out. I haven't read cursive in a long time. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me what you gleaned from that testimonial. What was your takeaway from that?
Mostly what I was thinking was he seems very grateful that, he had this policy, even though, they necessarily didn't really think anyone would buy it. He really was grateful that he had it, and he was very thankful to the company.
Absolutely. There's a couple of things more on the second page where he mentioned, as you can imagine, the medical bills were massive. Luckily,
Right.
we had a great primary insurance policy and family heritage cancer policy to back that up. Our family heritage policy covered almost all of our out-of-pocket expenses. And then he goes on to say some other nice things about
Mhm.
me and the company and how he never felt like we were trying to not pay like some insurance companies do. It's a
Yeah.
pretty cool thing to say. But let me ask you this. I don't know exactly what Henry's out-of-pocket expenses were after all this, but if he said that we covered almost all of their out-of-pocket and we paid them over $40,000, that tells you their out-of-pocket was at least $40,000, right?
Yeah.
And then some. And let me ask you another question. If you had health insurance and you went and used it, you had a health situation, you used your health insurance, and after everything was paid out, the part you were left with was $40,000. Would you think your health insurance was really great?
Not really. No.
Probably not. You're like, wait a minute, this is a lot of money out of pocket. What am I
Yeah.
doing here? What a lot of folks don't realize, Mike, is that a lot of health insurances pay a percentage, right? Like a
Mhm.
lot of them are 80-20 plans. They pay 80% of our doctor bill. We have 20. So if you go in for an annual checkup that's $200 and your 20% is $40, no big deal,
Mhm.
right? But when you go in for leukemia and you have a bunch of hospitalizations and treatments and surgeries and all that, and it adds up to 200,000,
Oh yeah.
and now your 20% is 40K, right?
Oh yeah.
That's when people really realize, oh, okay, so health insurance might not cover everything all the time. And that's really what this is for. And that's why we share testimonials like this with people to help them understand that, they're walking along just feeling great. I got health insurance. I'm good. Well, maybe you are, maybe you're not. Just depends on how much you need it for, right?
Oh yeah.
And your threshold of how much of 20% you can bite off, how much you can pay. So how about the Jeff Dobine's email? This is probably my favorite thing that I talked to people about in the final interview. Tell me your takeaways from that one.
I mean, I thought it was really cool. He's retired at 36, right? Yeah, he's retired at 36, and he still makes $80,000 a year, so he can just enjoy his retirement, an early retirement.
Yeah, it's kind of neat when there's a lot of moving parts in here, but he said that this fella did what we do for 12
Mhm.
years and retired in 1990. That's the year I graduated high school. So so he started in, I guess, 1978. So this guy's obviously a little bit older than we are.
Yeah.
And then 14 years after retirement, so this is January of 2005, so over 14 years later, the guy still has what looks like about $6,700, $6,800 a month hitting his bank account from work that hasn't done in 14 years.
Oh yeah.
And of course he retired at age 36, which means he started when he was 12 years earlier at 24. Okay.
Yeah.
I unfortunately didn't get in this business until I was 29, almost 30. But that was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's important, I guess, to understand, Mike, right up front, that it's not normal, right? To leave a job and 14 years later have that job still pay us 80 grand a year, right?
Oh yeah.
Not normal, in a really, really cool, not normal way, but still not normal. So it stands to reason that you probably aren't going to have those not normal results by doing just the normal stuff everybody does, right? Which is go work for X amount per hour or go work for specific salary, and that's all you're going to make your whole life. It's different, and we embrace that difference. We love that difference, and we celebrate that difference in what we do. So yeah, that was really cool. It's going to be a great email when all it says that the subject is just awesome, right?
Oh yeah.
Pretty cool. Let's take a look at those final interview assignments. This is my very busy Google Calendar. So in that, you did the profile, which I appreciate. There was a couple Eagles in there. One by Miss Casey Fine, who's been working with us now for about a year. And then the other one by Todd Stiles, who's been here about 5.5 years. He and I had some history way back in the day. Casey and I just kind of met about a year ago right now, and kind of took a flyer on her. She had no sales experience, had been a bartender for 10 years, but man, she just kind of had that it factor. that I want an opportunity, I'm going to bust my tail thing. Which of those two Eagles resonated with you more, Mike?
I definitely felt more with Casey's, just because I feel like I have a little bit more in common with her, just because, you know, she was a bartender for so long, and, you know, then she, with no experience, she came into this business, and she made a lot of money doing it. And she was a little not doing as good at first as from what I got from it, but you know, she trained, she reached out to other people to try and improve herself, and, you know, she was able to hit it out of the park.
Yeah, and here's the deal: is in her words, it might make you think, oh, she wasn't doing well at the beginning, but I mean, this was her first full week in the business.
Yeah.
So most people that walk like we do right now upright, the first time they tried to walk, they fell, right? I know I don't remember the specifics of learning to walk because I was, you know, a year old, but I'm pretty sure I fell. I do remember learning to ride a bike about 5 or 6 years later, and I know I fell then. But when you fall down as a kid on a bike, what do 99.9% of kids do?
Get back up.
They get back on the bike, right? It might not be that same day if they got some nasty cuts or but they get back on. Why? Because they've got this burning desire to be one of those kids that's out there riding a bike, having a good time. And I tell people, when your desire to get good at this is as strong as your desire was as a 5 or 6 year old to ride a bike, you'll be fine. Figure it out. I think she put in here at the bottom of this, you know, I had to borrow $500 from my mom to make sure the bills were covered. Plus the week following, the next week was Christmas, and I hadn't even bought my daughter's Christmas presents yet. So not being successful was not an option for me. That was kind of her burn the ships moment. It's like, hey, you know, we're gonna succeed at this. And and she had a tough start to that week, and it looks like I think she wrote about $7,700 of her 11,000 on Friday afternoon. So challenging week. She'd only made about, you know, $700-800 all week, and then all of a sudden she made about $2,500 in a few hours Friday afternoon. Thank goodness she didn't knock off early, huh?
Oh yeah.
How about the two articles that were in there? There was the Black Door, and then there was the Career Curveballs. Fear Can Be a Powerful Friend. Which of those spoke to you more?
Honestly, I like the Black Door one better.
Okay,
I just thought it was more interesting.
What tell me what you got from it.
I just thought it was interesting. The Black Door or the Firing Squad. Most people chose the Firing Squad because they were just scared of the unknown. So I just thought it was interesting, especially when the aide was like, "What's behind it?" He just says freedom.
Yep. Let me ask you something, Mike. Why do you think that there was a couple of personal, you know, testimonials or Eagles that the emotion, fear, even calling it false evidence appearing real. And then you got a couple other articles that are addressing that same common emotion. Why do you think we invest so much time in our interview process talking about fear?
I'd imagine it's because a lot of people are scared of going into a purely commission-based business where, like, if you don't sell anything, you don't make any money because people have bills to pay, they have families to feed, and all that stuff. So I imagine you do this to try and make them feel more comfortable, or maybe not so much more comfortable, but, you know, get them to realize that, like, hey, this is, you know, the fear is normal, but it's a good thing. You know, you can do this if you try.
Yeah, it is human nature. You hit the nail right on the head. It's human nature to be distrustful or be wary or be nervous or fearful about stuff that we've never done before, where we don't already know the outcome, right? And so, but that's kind of life. It's if you don't take your foot off, you know, the land where you currently are, you can't get to a distant shore, right?
Oh yeah.
Have discovered America if he refused to leave. So yeah, I like that one a lot. Let's see here. Did everything? Did you get a chance to watch our core values video?
Yeah, I was able to watch that one. Yeah.
Okay. Was there anything that was just a deal breaker? Hey, no, I'm not down with integrity, working hard and grit. No, not for me.
No,
Growth,
no.
ownership, abundance, purposeful, all those things.
They all, like, I'm pretty good with them. I've been a manager for almost 4 years, I think, at this point. So I'm used to doing all these things. Like, I mean, especially with ownership, like if I'm at the store, like everything that happens there is my fault.
Yep. There's there's a saying, the 10 two-letter words. It's in that little ownership piece right there. We call it the 10 two-letter words. If it is to be, it is up to me. And it sounds like that's kind of, from what I've heard from our conversations, it sounds like you're basically taking on the responsibilities of an owner,
Yeah.
just without the compensation part to it. It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
you have the responsibility, but no title and no comp to accompany it.
Well, that's retail in a nutshell. So
Well, and I can see why you have a dissatisfaction with your current situation.
yeah.
I would be dissatisfied if I was the hardest working guy in the room, but not the best paid guy in the room.
Yeah.
Those things need to add up. And you were able to, the career spotlight, you're able to catch up with that.
I've watched it fully all the way through once, and then I've watched it about a little over halfway a second time.
Okay, good.
Just not a whole lot of time between going to work and coming back and doing this, but yeah.
Was there anything that jumped out to you on your second watch or second listen that didn't come to light the first time?
Mostly I just resaw everything that had jumped out at me the first time. I still enjoy like the amount of training that is talked about and how that walkthrough and everything, because that's always been a big thing for me, because I've been at jobs where they just throw you to the wolves and with little to no training. So a career where it's like, we're going to take you step by step through the entire process, that's something that I really enjoy.
Good. That's the deal with what we do. Is everything that we do, Mike, is a system. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Our sales process is a system. We give you the script. It's kind of like if you got a part in a play or in a movie, unless it was specifically supposed to be an improv, something, which is hard. Improv's hard. Unless you've ever been to an improv performance, but that's difficult. Not that acting's easy, but at least with acting, you know what to say, right?
Yeah.
You know when to say it. You've rehearsed it. And that's what we do, it is rehearsed. We know what we do. Now, if you go watch your favorite movie, like mine's Shawshank Redemption, I love that movie. I could watch it, halfway through, and I'll start watching it and watch it to the end. But, I'm very, very confident that the director of Shawshank Redemption did not take Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman and just throw them in a prison and say, you guys just talk and we'll just record it, and then that'll be a great movie. No, they they memorized their lines, but they memorized them so well that they didn't come across as lines, right? They became the character, and that's what we do. We do it through repetition and through practice. It's a system. Our recruiting is a system. Okay. I've got another interview after this, and a lot of what I say will be very similar to what we talked about here, because I sent that person the same assignment. Now, that person's a female and has a single mom that has 2 kids. So we're going to have the conversation is probably going to go a little bit different directions, but that's okay. I know the framework of what we're doing and where we're trying to go. But that's the neat thing about it, is if it was shoot from the hip, then I'm not sure how that's going to work. But if it's a system and all you got to do is plug in and use the words, read the book, memorize it, and go say it, and we know that, hey, you do this 6 times a day, 5 people are going to tell you no, or think about it, pray about it, ask my husband, ask my wife, do you have a card, do you have a brochure, all kinds of excuses. But on average, 1 person will buy from you, and that's 5 a week, 240 for the year. That's going to be about 70 grand in your pocket, plus about 30 to 40,000 of back end residual income. Plus this is top. Okay. And we know exactly how to control those things as well. Are there anything else that's come up in our conversation? Any questions you have for me before we move forward?
Not really, not at this time. Just I did have questions about the sales, but again, we can go over that later, because I don't know what you had planned to talk about.
Well, what I wanted to talk to you about was a couple things. One is just kind of share with you, and this, I know this was up on the screen probably very briefly during the video that you
Yeah.
watched. I want to make sure that you understand our compensation, maybe not every single little minute detail in there, but just understand that basically the harder you work and the more families you protect. And when I say hard work, I don't mean just hard work when you're in the field. We call it, they're trying to give demos,
Mhm.
but working hard outside of those hours, practicing, taking
Yeah.
the time to record a presentation and do a self audit and have the sales talk in front of you and go, man, I'm not really sure where I am on the script. I'm kind of off in left field. Okay, well,
Mhm.
it's a good thing to know that quickly so we can bring it back to the words, because we do know that the words work.
Mhm.
Shooting from the hip, we can't vouch for that quite as much, but at 5 sales a week, it's going to make you about 70 grand in year one. By year 5, by virtue of your contract being higher, by when you're starting at 30%, you're averaging about 40% your first year. By year 5, you're at a 50, 54, 58% contract. You're making 100,000 in just in the same 5 sales a year just from that. But that extra 16,448, you know what that represents?
That's the renewals from your previous year's contracts.
Got it. Yeah, that's the money that you're getting paid from the policy holders that are still on the books and active from the previous 4 years. So at 5 sales a week, 240 per year, after 4 years, you'd have, let's just call it 1,000 clients. I think it's 960, something like that.
Mhm.
And some of those will have canceled. Some of them will have, you probably have 800 of them or so still on the books. That's the 16,448 coming from those people that the work you did last year and the previous 4 years. Okay. So it's 118. Obviously, if you do a little bit better than that, just add 2 per week. Well, it's the difference between making 70 your first year and making 100 your first year. It's a difference in 118 in year 5 and 165, an extra basically 50 grand.
Yeah.
Pretty significant difference. And then top producers that do 10 transactions per week, it's basically twice as much as 5 with everything. So, but down here, building an agency, and this is the part that I love chatting with people about, is just talking to other folks about what we do.
Mhm.
We've got these little cards that are just like business cards, but they say, "You're amazing. We should talk." And then it gives people the link to the video that you've watched. And
Yeah.
I just tell folks, give those out all day long to sharp people. Just because
Mhm.
you give one to somebody doesn't mean they're going to want to do what we do if they do watch
Yeah.
the video, because most people don't. And just because if they watch it and they like it, that doesn't mean we're going to hire them. It just means that we should interview them and get to know them a little bit better. I had a guy just yesterday approach me. I do Orange Theory. It's like a workout
Yeah.
thing for 1 hour. I do that twice a week. Well, the guy, and I'd kind of forgotten that I gave him one of those cards about a month ago, because he's a sharp dude, just a
Yeah.
stud. He knew Team Elite Baseball, which I was wearing a shirt because my son used to be in that organization. And this guy played college baseball. And I like former college athletes because they're competitive. They usually
Yeah.
work pretty hard. And he approached me yesterday. He goes, "Hey man, hey, I finally watched that video that you sent me, and I'm in. If you'll have me, I'm in." I said, "Well, hey, look, pump the brakes. I'm glad you watched it. Glad you liked it. Hey, we definitely have an interview process, and I'll certainly put you in there, and we'll see if we have a good fit, because I think I wouldn't have given you that card a month ago if I didn't think you didn't have the it factor.
Yeah.
So you're heading in the right direction, but let's just make sure that we go through our process." So I think that told him that we're not just trying to hire mirror foggers. We're trying to hire the right people
Yeah.
to be on board. But when you do build an agency, and this isn't like building a multinational conglomerate, it's basically having one person in your first year and then adding 2 people per year after that. So in your first year, you got 1 guy on your team, and you can have a guy on your team as early as your 2nd month. If you're doing,
Mhm.
we've got a fellow here in Durham here, Josh, who is just doing great. He's by the book. And so we're already putting people on his team because he's great at, people can watch him and learn how to do what we do. And he's been here for about a month and a half. So it's a lot of fun. But let's say we hired a person, put them on your team. That person just did 5 sales per week. You'd make about $9,000 that first year. So it's not retirement money quite yet,
Yeah.
right? But just go out year 2, 3, 4 to year 5. You'd have a 9-person team. Okay. Probably had to hire a few more people than 9 because this is direct sales, and every now and then people do matriculate out of the business. Okay.
Mhm.
But that's 9 people. If those 9 people are averaging 5 per week, your first year income alone from those sales is $220,000. The residual income created by those agents the first 4 years is now 36 grand per year, or over $3,000 a month. Just think, Mike, how many of your everyday monthly bills would take a U-turn at the mailbox if there was $3,000 waiting for it every month?
A lot of them.
Yeah, right. So that's just something that I wanted you to kind of grasp and understand, because it's a pretty important part of it. But really, the last thing I just wanted to share with you, Mike, is there's three really big obstacles that can make business in our success in our business almost impossible, and avoiding them is pretty critical. Okay. Yeah. So I want to go over them with you now to make sure that none of those are obstacles for you. Because if they are, we should definitely discuss it up front. Right.
Okay.
So the first one would be, Mike, what I call insufficient funds. Okay. The learning curve, it clicks for different people at different times. When you follow our system, it always works, but it takes some people longer than other people. Okay. For example, with Casey, she figured it out pretty quickly. I mean, in her first full week in the business, she sold 11,105 in premium, and 30% of that means she made $3,300.
Yeah.
She also got $1,000 cash bonus for quick start. That's for selling 10,000 in your first 4 weeks. Well, she did it in her first week, so she went ahead and got that bonus too, and a couple other ones too. So she made about $4,500 in week one. Most people feel pretty good when they start off that way. Now, more people though are kind of like Todd or me, for example. I didn't write my first Eagle until my third month. And Todd was kind of the same. He writes in here, I'm about 13 weeks into my family heritage career, and I just had back-to-back weeks earning over $5,000 each week. Now, that doesn't mean that for the first 11 weeks, Todd made zero. It just means he made less than $5,000.
Yeah.
Which you can make less than $5,000 in a week and still do pretty well. Some weeks it was 800, some weeks it was 2,000, some weeks 1,500. But if it took you 12 or 13 weeks to learn how to make $5,000 a week, would you be okay with that?
Yeah. I mean, I have some money saved up, so I can definitely, and I live with a roommate and everything, so that's not going to be a big problem for me.
Starting to lose you just a little bit.
Yeah. Hear me now?
It could be. Yep, I can hear you great now.
Okay.
So just to make sure that you're not in a situation where you're stressed out about money in your first couple of months, I just wanted to kind of review your income needs. What do you need, Mike? And it doesn't have to be to the penny, but what do you need to have coming in to keep the wheels on the bus going round and round in your financial world?
I mean, I'm trying to think. I'd probably need about 2,000 a month just to make sure that I didn't, completely drain my savings account.
Oh gosh. Okay. Did you say 2,000?
2,000 a month. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, all right. Yeah, we should not be dipping into savings at all. Let me just share that with you real quick. If 5 sales per week is 70 grand, let's take 70,000 and let's break it down to monthly. So divide that by 12. That means 5 sales a week, you're going to be bringing in about $5,800 per month. So you could make 2 sales per week, eight for the entire month, and you'd still be making that $2,000. Now, hey, if we're talking about 2 sales a week, we probably shouldn't even be continuing the interview, because I'm not interested in hiring people that are going to sell 2 a week. You're not fired if you do. It's just our trainers work really hard and they get paid commission too. So they want kids that are going to kick butt. So we want, the better you do, the better they do. Right.
Yeah.
So we want you to do really well. So at 2 a week, you'd be good. So you could be less than half of average and still make more than enough money that you would not have to touch your savings. Okay. Let me ask you, Mike, at most things that you've done in your life up to this point, are you typically spot on average with the crowd, or are you a little below average or a little above average?
I'm usually a little above average.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even at things maybe that are new to you?
Well, I mean, I went into retail completely new, and within a few weeks, I was a supervisor of some sort.
Okay.
So I mean, it's just something I'm a good learner. I like a fast learner, so I usually pick up on things pretty fast.
Okay.
Um,
Good.
so yeah,
We like people that pick up things fast.
yeah.
So is there any logical reason to think that after all these years on this earth being above average, that you would all of a sudden just suck at something?
And there's always something you're gonna suck at, but I have no reason to think it's gonna be this.
Right. I wouldn't think so either. It's a system.
Oh
Here's
yeah,
a script. Memorize it and let's go talk to some people.
yeah,
Cool. Can we check that box in on cash flow?
yeah. That's good.
Insufficient funds. I think you'd be good with that. I mean, I thought you were going to tell me you got $7, $8, $10,000 a month, and that's like, all right, then we need to look at things. But yeah. So the second one, Mike, would be what I call lack of support at home. Okay. So, you know, usually when I'm talking to someone my age, if they're married, I'm talking about their spouse. If it's someone that's, you know, younger, maybe just out of college, it could still be their parents, or some people have a coach, like I've got a business coach or a mentor. Who is that person in you? Who's your sounding board in your life that you bounce things off of?
They're usually my friends. I got a roommate. I've been friends with her for a long time. I have a buddy of mine. He's starting to work as a realtor. Um, and I usually talk to him a lot of things, especially about financial things, because he does stock trading a lot of times too. So I usually talk to him or my roommate. They're just really good to bounce things off of.
Okay. So what do your friends think about you doing this for a living? I'm sure it's been floated by them.
They think it's interesting. One of them he did think it was kind of a weird thing. He was like, he wasn't sure if I would be making the money that you guys say I will. He's not entirely sure. It's like a good thing, but you know, I told him I'd give it a shot anyways.
You know, it's funny because I'm sure that person is someone
Yeah.
that's near and dear to you, probably has your best interest in heart, loves you probably.
Hmm.
It's interesting. My parents love me too. And when I was a 19-year-old freshman at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, I was approached by a friend of a friend
Yeah.
to go do this summer sales internship program. Okay. Where you basically work 80 hours a week, and the average first year student brings home a check for $5,000. Now, the previous summer I worked construction, and I saved maybe $2,000.
Yeah.
I made about 25, maybe made 3, spent 1,000, netted about 1. Well, my parents were very, very against me doing that because, well, where are you going to live? Well, they're going to tell us once we get there, you know, well, how much money are you going to make? Well, that's the best part. It's uncapped. It's commission. I mean, there's no limit. I could make
Yeah.
10,000. I could make 20. And they're like, mm-hmm. So finally, I wasn't getting anywhere with my parents, but the guy
Yeah.
that the manager guy, he actually, you know, drove to Apex, North Carolina, sit down with my folks, explained the deal that I would have, you know, leadership. I would have, he would take care of me. He would coach me and teach me personally and all this stuff. And yeah, lo and behold, I came back and I got a check for $5,020 for my
Yeah.
first summer. I didn't break any records. I was spot on average. But that launched me into the career that I'm in now. I ended up doing that for 7 summers total. That's that crazy summer gig.
Hmm.
And then both of my careers since then were sales. 4 years selling suits, and then 20 years now here with Family Heritage. My family had my best interest in mind, but had I listened to them and not done it, my life would be very different, if that makes sense. And I don't mean in a better way, but in probably less of a good way. Even though they had the best of intentions, they weren't knowledgeable about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And when they got knowledgeable, when Craig went there and sat down and really explained everything, you know, there's a saying, knowledge breeds confidence. And the more knowledge they had about it, the more confidence they had about it. And so then they agreed that, yeah, you got our blessing, go make it happen. So anyway, just mentioning that your friend probably, again, has your best interest in mind. But again, if he didn't watch the career spotlight video with you,
Hmm.
didn't get through our phone conversation, and has very little knowledge, stands to reason he'd be at a pretty low confidence level at this point. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So cool. So it sounds like you got a good support system with friends, your roommate, people like that.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Well, the last one, and probably the biggest one for most people, Mike, is what I call poor work habits. This is the one that kills the most careers. Okay. It's called poor work habits and unearned schedule flexibility. Mike, what do you think I mean by unearned flexibility when it has to do with your work schedule?
What I'm thinking is people who just think they can work whenever they want to work and don't want to schedule any kind of time. They just work very few hours. That's kind of what I'm thinking it is.
As we like to say in the South, you're smelling what I'm stepping in. Mike, yeah. I mean, in cases where this doesn't work out for someone, it always comes back to one basic problem. They simply didn't work a consistent schedule. You see, our system, Mike, always works. It doesn't always work on Monday, right? It doesn't always work immediately. For Casey, it worked. It was just towards the back end of the week.
Yeah.
But had she used some of her flexibility and said, I'm having a slow day today. It's 2 p.m. on a Friday. It's Miller time. I'm out of here.
Yeah.
She could have done that. She wasn't going to be fired. She wouldn't even have been scolded. But it would have cost her $2,500.
Yeah.
Because that flexibility hadn't been earned yet, right? You earn that by working, by creating a residual income for yourself, by working hard now. And hey, I'm going to work harder these next 2 weeks than I normally do so that I can make the money of 3 weeks in 2 weeks so that I can enjoy a full week off and not worry about it.
Yeah.
And that's the beauty of our business is we can do that. We just have to kind of remember the words of Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
And that flexibility is a pretty great power. So, and the flexibility is an amazing thing over the long haul. Okay. I can tell you some pretty awesome stories about using that flexibility. But it can be the worst thing in the short term, especially if it hasn't been earned. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone has the discipline to manage their time, especially, when no one's watching. So I guess my question for you is, how do you feel about your ability to manage yourself and your time in the midst of distractions?
I mean, I manage myself pretty good. I've done it for the past like 2 or 3 years. I'm usually the only manager around. So I'm the one, like, if I don't do anything, nothing is going to get done. So I definitely feel like I can, motivate myself to do the work to try and get, in future, like actual like time off and stuff like that. Like, I don't see that as a problem. It's coming up.
Okay, good. So how do you think you would do it this, Mike?
I mean, I definitely think that I could, earn like at least $70,000 a year. It's definitely something that I would be, interested in trying and seeing if I can make this, get it, make a career out of it. Because I mean, it's not a hard product to sell. It's mostly just talking to people, which I do every day. It's basically what I do now. But yeah, I'm excited to try it.
Cool. If I was to make an offer to you to come work with us and build a business with you, is this something you definitely want to move forward with?
Yeah, I mean, if you told me right now that you'd want me to go ahead and get my, license to sell insurance, I'd go into today and tell my boss, like, hey, I need to put my 2 weeks in. I'm going to get an insurance license and sell insurance.
What do you think would be your biggest challenge if we work together?
Biggest challenge is probably, it's just that it's back to its sales, and it's not something I've ever done before, not on this kind of way, because I've worked in sales, but not in this kind of thing. Like with retail, sales is completely different. So I've never done this thing where like you're just going up to people like, hey, I have a product to sell you. That's the only thing that kind of is challenging, in my opinion, to me. It's just because I've never done it before.
Yeah. And you know what, it will be challenging, and that's okay. You've done challenging things before, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't grow a beard that long without some challenges, right? I mean,
No.
you gotta work at it.
Oh yeah.
So I'll tell you this, Mike, this is the most rewarding career that I've ever seen. I've seen a bunch of them too.
Mhm.
And not just on a financial, it's been very financially rewarding, but just on a personal level, putting products that people are going to need eventually and that are going to save their butts when time comes, helping people out with claims like Henry with
Mhm.
his claim, or returning premium checks for people that have had their coverage for 20 or 25 years and didn't have to use it, or that turned 75 and aged out and get their money back. I mean, it's
Yeah.
like Ed McMahon delivering the sweepstakes checks. I mean, it's fun. We
Oh, yeah.
record a lot of those, and some of those are actually on our on our website and on our Facebook page. You got to check some of those out. That people literally break down in tears when it's like, hey, here's $17,000. What? But however, as we have discussed, it's also extremely challenging. I mean, everybody
Yeah.
thinks about quitting at least once. I know I did. And I sold more insurance in my first year than anyone's ever sold in a first year in the history of this business. So I know if I wanted to quit in the midst of a great year, everybody wants to. It's
Yeah.
just that some people don't, and they stick it out and tough it out. So my question for you is what's going to keep you going when that time comes for you, when you're scratching your head going, what am I doing here?
Oh, honestly, I would probably just look back on, how I felt working, in retail, just like, do I want to go back to that mess? Like, do I really want to do that again? And that's probably what's going to keep me in this business.
You might you might actually consider putting a picture of the store that you're so used to going to. It's like, that just almost makes you have a visceral reaction to it.
Yeah.
Put that on your dashboard. Anytime you have a tough day, you just kind of look over and go, ooh, I better get back out of the car and go see somebody, right?
Yeah.
If I stay in the car too much, I'm going to end up back in that store.
Oh yeah.
So do you think, Mike, do you think we should work together?
I mean, I think so, but again, that's ultimately up to you.
Oh, I know it is. I get to wield the power. No, man, I think we should. In
Oh
all
yeah.
fairness, I think you'd be really good at this. I mean, from the jump on the phone with you the first time, just your demeanor.
Mhm.
You've got a I don't want to say like a radio voice, but you got a good voice for sales.
Yeah, I've heard that before.
It's relatable.
Mhm.
It made me comfortable. And I know it would make other people comfortable too. I think if you just know you're taught what words to come out of that mouth,
Yeah.
it's going to be a great thing. I love the fact too that yesterday it was, hey, yeah, I can catch up with you right now. It was like, I'm
Mhm.
ready. I'm not guarded. I'm open and
Yeah.
flexible. You got to be flexible, and you are. And I think I think you'd be a great fit. So assuming we can agree on three things, well, really, and a fourth one too, I'd love to work with you. So let me just
Mhm.
mention these three things. You got to be willing to work hard, study hard, and you got to be coachable. By work hard, I don't mean 100 hours a week. I don't mean heavy labor. I mean, we're sitting on our butts all day and talking to people,
Yeah.
but I also don't mean 40 hours a week either. It's probably going to be more like 50, 60 as you're getting started, so that you can, because you make up for lack of skill at the beginning with additional effort.
Yeah.
And as your skill rises, you don't have to put in quite as much effort to get those same results. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So are you willing to work really hard and put in the hours it takes to get good?
Oh yeah. It's I'm not afraid of like working that many hours. Like that's child's play and from retail.
From what I tell you what, man, if you work 80% as hard as you've been working, I mean, you can literally lower your hours by 20% and you're going to be fine here.
Oh yeah.
Okay. You'll make 3 times as much as you've ever imagined. So, the second thing is you got to be willing to study hard. Obviously, there's a state exam that needs to
Mhm.
be passed for you to be legally able to do this. But the day that you pass your exam, we're going to email you the script and we're going to tell you to memorize it, just like
Mhm.
you got the lead in the school play. Okay. And you're going to need to learn those words and it's going to need to come off. It'll be awkward. Like the first day of dress rehearsals, they're awkward. People are stepping on each other's lines, forgetting what they're supposed to say. It's like, line, please. But you got to know it, because when you're in front of a prospect, it needs to be fluid, it needs to be
Yeah.
believable. Okay. Can you study hard and learn the material and use our systems that we have in place that we know work?
Oh yeah, I was a great student in school.
Good. Well, stay a good student.
Oh yeah.
Students do well. The third thing is you got to be coachable. So really, somebody put it to me years ago. They said, Van, being coachable just means to be smart enough to allow yourself to be dumb enough to just learn it the company way,
Hmm.
and not take all your experiences in life and throw them away, but just take them and just kind of put them on a shelf temporarily and come in and be a blank slate, blank canvas, whatever the analogy, and just learn it this way. And then when you do, then you can implement some of your life skills and experiences into that, if that makes sense. And it becomes very organic. It becomes very, very you, even
Yeah.
though it is within the confines of a rehearsed, memorized sales presentation. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Can you be coachable and listen and understand that, hey, listen, we don't get paid unless you get paid?
Yeah. I'm definitely one of those people that, like, if I don't think I'm doing something good, I always go to my supervisors or my peers and like, hey, I don't think I'm doing this right. Can you show me or teach me? And I'm definitely one of those people. I'd rather someone tell me how to do it if I feel like I'm doing it the wrong way, or someone tell me, yes, you're doing it the right way, keep going, doing that,
Okay,
than someone who just blindly does it.
right on. Well, dude, let me tell you what. There's a fourth one, by the way. You got to be willing to have some fun. I mean, life is too short
Yeah.
to not have fun while we're working. Hey, if we're going to be doing it half the time we're awake, we might as well be able to have fun doing it, right?
Oh yeah.
You willing to have a little fun along the way while we build an empire together?
Yeah. I don't grow a beard like this if I don't like having fun.
You said that right. So awesome. Well, dude, if you can do those things and let me know I can count on you,
Mhm.
I want to work with you. You want to do this?
Yeah, I definitely want to.
Let's make it official with a virtual fist bump.
Okay.
And you got to blow it up.
All right.
Yes, it's official. Welcome to the team, man.
Thank you.
I'm excited. Are you excited?
Yeah, I am actually excited.
You get to go into your job and tell the boss, hey, I appreciate what you've done for me, but it's time for me to spread my wings, right?
Yeah.
It's time to jump, as Steve Harvey would say, right?
Oh yeah.
So you ready for your first assignment?
Yeah.
So I'm going to send you a contact right now. It is for Nicole Damewood. Nicole is our VP of operations. And gross. There you are, Mike. Boom, send it to you. Just when we get off, call her, let her know you got the gig. I'll send her your contact so she recognizes the number. And she will get you set up with your new work email. You're going to have mgross@protectonefamily.com email address. And you're going to want to check that like once a day because you will get some stuff coming in there. Some of it might be time sensitive.
Yeah.
And then she'll also get you the information to sign up and take the North Carolina health insurance class.
Okay.
Mike, you want to make sure that you are completely done with that class, come hell or high water, and you've at least taken your exam 2 weeks from today. Okay. The last 3 people that have failed the exam all took like a month and a half to 2 months from when we hired them to when they just dragged their feet.
Yeah.
And when you drag your feet, stuff you're putting in your head at the beginning, if you don't take the exam until a month and a half later, you're forgetting it. So it's got a shelf life. So I tell people, if your full-time job is to find a full-time job, like you don't have a job right now, knock this out in a week. If you got a full-time gig and you need the cash flow from that, then you got to schedule in an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, 5 hours on on Saturday and Sunday, and just knock it out in a week and a half to 2 weeks. That makes sense?
Yeah.
All right, man. And by the way, Nicole is mother superior. If she calls, call her back. If she texts, text her back. If something happens, be in touch with Nicole. You're going to be in touch with her a ton over these next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
As soon as you pass your exam, you're going to be in a lot more in conversation with me and our local leadership too. Okay.
Okay.
Hey, by the way, I'll throw this out too. Every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, we have an 8 a.m. Zoom with all our team where we do training and coaching and share good news. Would love to have you on as many of those as you're able to be on.
Okay.
And it's on this exact same Zoom channel, same number.
Okay.
So if you can hop on next week and the week after, you're only going to learn more. You're only going to gain more knowledge and more confidence, which is the name of the game right now. So just keep in touch. If anything arises, let us know. And I'm excited to be in business with you, brother.
All right. I appreciate it. I'm excited too.
Awesome. And have a great rest of your day. Okay.
All right. You too. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Bye.
Bye.